Hi, welcome back to Healing the Gap. I'm Kevin.
I'm Morgan, and today we are joined by one of the co-founders of Aspire.
Hi, everyone. I'm Koyen Shaw, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Aspire program at the Hathaway Brown School. Thank you both so much for having me. What an honor to be part of this conversation today. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too. How have you been? How are you?
I'm great. We're doing great. Super fantastic, as my father-in-law would say. That's his code word. When he turned 85, we all had the family all had t-shirts with that word printed on it.
That's cute.
Yes, it is.
Super
Good way.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. For me, I haven't heard about Aspire until Morgan recommended for you to come on our show today. To start out today, we want to focus on the origin and the formation of your program. Morgan kind of told us a little bit about the program, so I just took it upon myself to go on your website and deep dive and figure out what I can find. Can you just kind of explain what is Aspire?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I just want to say thank you to Morgan and to you, Kevin, for inviting us. This is an incredible opportunity for us to connect to you and your organization's mission, which is really focused on health. And I like the I love the revamp of the podcast, and I like the creative questioning you're doing as you explore with other organizations what all the determinants of health are. So it's a real honor to be invited, and I'm so happy to be here. So thank you. Uh, I love starting with an origin story. Origin stories say a lot about a person or a place. It's not everything, but they do say a lot. And we've got quite an origin story. Aspire is a program for middle school girls, and it is a place where middle school girls who are from under-resourced schools and would be first-generation college students spend a lot of really intentional and incredible time together. Aspire is also a program for people who are thinking about becoming teachers. And we have a multi-generational teaching model that I can tell you a little bit more about. The way all of this came together is a story of what happens when teachers are really creative thinkers. When teachers are given a little space to acknowledge what the needs are and to find and design ways to address those needs. And it started here at the Hathaway Brown School. I was working in a classroom with the co-founder of the program. We shared space. And so she'd be teaching when I was back in the back of the room behind a divider, and vice versa. In those off times, we started talking to each other. The time Hathaway Brown was building a new building, and there was a lot of excitement about that, and some kind of dreaming about what could happen in this space to make it an even brighter force in Cleveland, to expand the access of Hathaway Brown School, to make it a place that belongs to more people over a broader reach across Cleveland. So we visited other programs. That was a really crucial step. I mean, people start with a good idea and they take it to other people who know more. And we did that. We got a summer innovation grant and explored other programs that are similar to what Aspire is, and visited with them and learned from them. There were some people at these excellent programs in Pittsburgh, other programs in Cleveland. There were directors of these programs who took us in, let us shadow them, shared their materials, shared their grant proposals, answered all of our questions. They were really encouraging, and we're really indebted to them for, and they're definitely part of our beginning, because they were so willing to talk through the idea. We applied to the Cleveland Foundation and the Gunn Foundation for grants in 2002 for startup funding. And both of those grants were awarded. And that gave us a little bit of seed money to start. We started small and just grew a little bit every year. And we've been accepting a cohort of 36 students since 2002. We celebrated our 20th anniversary last summer. It was a huge triumph.
kind of tangentially related to that. Me and Kevin were talking about this earlier when I was talking about Aspire. And I was like, oh, it's really cool. They're like kind of like their mascot is a butterfly. So I would love to hear like where the imagery of the butterfly came from and what that means to the organization.
Yeah, I think the first time we created a student application, we we were we honestly, the co-founder and I looked at each other and we thought the application looked a little sterile, and it looked a little intimidating. So we brought it to some fifth grade teachers we know and some fifth grade students, and we retooled it. We changed the font, and it's something about what you communicate sometimes without even intending to. And we wanted to add an image to the materials that would make it appealing, and went through a lot of different options and landed on a butterfly because butterflies are about transformation. Butterflies are very different in each season of their lives, right? And every season, when they egg to caterpillar to chrysalis to adult butterfly with wings, every season leads to the next. And everyone is significant, but it acknowledges that change is possible and change is actually invited, and it's a natural order of things. So the symbolism kind of came in after our attempt to make our materials appealing and approachable to the middle school students who would become part of our program. Now I see butterflies wherever I go. They're on our t-shirts, and t-shirts are the t-shirts are a huge tradition. Every year we have a new color, and I love being out and about in Cleveland and seeing different colored t-shirts on people, and by chance running into each other and connecting. It's the best feeling in the world. So
Perfect.
I love that. And you have a little butterfly behind you too.
yeah. This one was gifted to us as an it's kind of just become, it makes it feel like home.
Nice. Thank you for that answer. I think one of our biggest motivators in life is our why. Why did you start Aspire? What drew you to get into this work, actually? What is a specific event in your career that kind of drew you to this moment? Was it sermon learning? Could you explain that for us?
I'm always curious to hear about people's motivations. I love learning about people's why. And sometimes it can be really hard to articulate that. I love this question, Kevin, because I think an awareness of why can be really motivating. And Aspire exists because the co-founder, Cami Doobie, and I both had experiences in very different kinds of schools. And what we saw is that there are different strengths and different successes in different places, and not enough connection, and those experiences are often really siloed. And we just thought it'd be so incredible to experiment with a little, just by what would happen. It was a question: what would happen if we forged some unlikely connections or unexpected connections? There are four values at Aspire. They're four words that we really fight for. It's what we stand for and what we fight for. And one of them has to do with connection. And it is about putting people who wouldn't necessarily meet one another in close contact with each other. And Aspire is intergenerational in a lot of different ways. We have students all through middle school working together. And we have three different kinds of teachers. Some of our teachers are high school students. Some of our teachers are college students. Some of our teachers are experienced mentors. And so everyone in the program, it's this giant game of inspiration tag. Everyone's looking to someone else in the program and saying, what can you offer and how can I help? And there's just always someone learning from someone else inside the program. It's it's also an all girls environment, and that can be very freeing. Freeing from some of the pressures and stresses that current culture puts on girls and women in particular, and girls and women in Cleveland in particular. And unfortunately, Cleveland has that. There's work we can do to make our culture and our communities more equitable for girls and women. So one of those words that we fight for, and one of our why, one of the words that fits in for under our why is connection. Another one is about the value of doing meaningful work, and Aspire offers people the opportunity to produce distinctive, original, and creative work. There are classes, academic classes at Aspire, and workshops and activity periods, and the teachers who teach them and the students who take those classes are invited into all of this incredible content knowledge, all of these new ideas, and are just, I mean, there's just a lot of joy around learning new things. And I think the third part of our why has to do with choice, and how important it is for human health to be able to make decisions or make choices. It's connected to a sense of agency and a sense of self-control. And people want that kind of control, and but making choices isn't easy, and you have to practice it. And it's a constant reading the environment and reading yourself and doing your best to match what you can do and what you need with what's being offered to you, or to look for more opportunities in that way. So students at Aspire and teachers at Aspire are presented with choice on a daily basis, and we talk about choice and the responsibility that comes with being able to make them. So that's our third word. And then the fourth word is about exposure and context. And I think exposure and context is a really important part of health and wellness too, because sometimes a situation that you're in a moment, you can develop a more healthy attitude about it if you can broaden the context in sense of time, because sometimes things change over time, or in terms of context, just because, or content, just knowing about other worlds that exist, or other cultures that exist, or other spaces that exist, sometimes invites aspirations or goal setting or dreams that you can't make in isolation. So Aspire really does a lot to open new realms of thinking up for everyone in the program.
I really liked what you said about choice. I think that's really interesting in your why, and how what I've learned in my studies of public health and my work through public health is that one of the signs of achieving health equity is giving people real choice. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just something that's really important. So the fact that girls and the teachers in this program are offered choice and then are constantly having conversations about that as well, I find really, really cool and important.
Yeah. I think as you get older, the choices become more significant. But so, I mean, when you're, I do like this notion that choice is something you can practice. And I think if, it's so funny that you can learn so much about a student's personality as they approach a choice, but sometimes you need to choose something that's inside your comfort zone. Sometimes you need to choose something that's outside of your comfort zone. And that can vary over day to day in the course of the summer. So.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. At our center, we have a lot of our work focuses on health disparities, not just proving those disparities that they actually exist, but to put forth the work so we can reduce those disparities. We would love to hear your thoughts on education as a social determinant of health and how Aspire bridges the disparity, healing that gap. If you can kind of just elaborate for me.
Love the title, Healing the Gap. And because I like the call to action, and I think it draws attention to the fact that healing takes intentional work and energy and intention, that there's intention to that process. And I believe that there are a lot of dimensions to health. People typically first connect health with physical health, right? I mean, no, I don't have COVID, or, or yes, I have high blood pressure. That's how we typically think of health. And those, it's absolutely essential that we do think about that component of health and that component of connecting it to medicine and the access to doctors and tests that can monitor that and give people information about how to become physically more healthy. That's key. But there are other dimensions of health that we really should be paying attention to as well: emotional health, mental health, and social health, just how connected we are to each other as human beings. And that is woven into Aspire as well. But occupational health is really also very interesting for us to be paying attention to. In our culture today, oftentimes we talk about work as being toxic. It's something that drains us and makes us less healthy, something that there's kind of work that we do over here, and then everything else we do in our life to build us back up from that. I'd like to encourage us as a culture and a community to think about work in a different way, as something that's essential for our well-being, that we want to wake up in the morning and feel a sense of agency, and that the efforts that we apply our energy to are necessary. Like it's part of being well. And I think, Aspire's effort to invite people into a love of learning and to understand what some of the needs are, what some of the problems are, but then to put themselves into a solution finding mindset about that is all really very much part of health. And that's a running theme in our program.
Yeah, there's like the education aspect of Aspire that's like obviously very healing. And then there's the community aspect, to be in a program with a bunch of other students that look like you. And it's like a very like progressive, positive, everyone's admiring each other's work. There's a lot of uplifting. I feel like also really, really does a lot of health work as well, like a lot of inner healing. And especially at that young age, that's such a solid foundation that you can take anywhere. Even like just going to an all-girls school, when I went off to college and then starting my first job, I think having that foundation of like being proud of who I am and being proud of my work set me up really well to like find those healthy balances, like physically, but also mentally.
Yeah.
I think Aspire also like translates that as well.
Yeah, I think it's one of the parts of Hathaway Brown culture that has informed Aspire culture in some of the best ways. Work is sacred, and we can all help each other find work that is meaningful. We all have different strengths and different talents, but and it is a process to harness them in the right way, to tap them in a way that makes people feel seen and feel like their efforts make a difference. And just there's so many different ways to do that. It takes creativity, it takes patience. Sometimes you flop a lot of different times before you find the kind of work that you were meant to do, or to realize that you can be meant to do a lot of different kinds of work. And starts young, and people are looking for it in all different seasons of your life. It's not a search that you start and finish. I feel like it's a search that you're constantly tending to.
Great. Thank you for that.
Our next section, we kind of want to talk about the metrics of success for your program. So us as researchers who worked on projects, worked with many programs, we know that it's oftentimes really important to prove success to your stakeholders. But oftentimes success can be very subjective and very unique to define and measure at a macro level and a micro level. So something we were a little interested in is, what do you view as metrics of success for your program? And you can talk about this in any way, whether it be for just an individual student, how you view the metrics of success for them, how you help them navigate what their metrics of success are in reaching their goals, or what it is for the teachers, since you have so many different levels, and if you want to talk about that success for the program as a whole.
Okay. So there are so many ways that we look for this, because when you're working on something new, you're always asking yourself, is this working? And is there anything we can be doing to make it better? So from the start in 2002, we put some things in place to try and track how things were going. So all of the students who've ever been part of Aspire have completed surveys about their experience, and they've done them sometimes pre-summer and post-summer, but we've tracked their progress, or we've tracked their experience over time, because we know each participant beginning the summer, they start with us the summer after 5th grade, they stay with us all through middle school. We stay in touch with them as alums while they're high school students and even beyond. And so we've done some video projects along the way. So in addition to these paper survey, or these questions that we've asked them, we've done some video projects along the way. All of our teachers have been surveyed, and the students' parents have been surveyed too. So there's just always a lot of data being collected, asking them questions about their experience. And some of what we've taken from that has been quantitative, and some of what we've taken from that is qualitative. So there are some really powerful anecdotes and stories as we've tracked our participants through time. On some of those stories come from the student side, and some of them come from the educator side. So, and we're constantly refining that. And in one exciting move of recently, we've partnered with Purdue University, and there's a researcher there who's working with a group of graduate students, who's looking at some of the data that we've collected already and helping us revise the questions that we ask and the metrics that we look at going forward. So this is kind of an exciting time. You start to professionalize your approach to these things as you move from being a startup to an established organization, and to really we're asking ourselves as an organization right now, what metrics can we focus on that will tell the story in the most compelling way? We've had tremendous success with that so far. The program's on much more substantial financial footing now than it was in those early years. That's given us the freedom to create some of these new partnerships and create a dashboard that we will be able to keep updated, so that we stay focused on the ways that this program is helping our students, helping our teachers, helping Cleveland, and helping women.
Oh, I'm excited to see what they come up with.
Yeah, we just keep learning new ways to tell the story, right? I mean, in the early days, it was a paper survey that the students would fill out with paper and pencil, and it shifted over time, and we were collecting that through a computer. And now there are other ways to collect data too, through you can have people come in and observe, you can have people come in and interview. So it's such an art to these tools are complex and they're super interesting. There are a lot of different ways to ask a student a question, or a parent a question, or a teacher a question, to get them to reflect on the experience that they're having and to put words to what it means to them, you know. So there's no question in my mind personally that Aspire has a transformative effect on the people who are part of it. Sometimes I forget. And then I find myself in conversation with an alum who starts to explain to me that her best friends are people she met in the program, or the fact that she finds herself in a graduate program now, that it's because at one point when she was a JT, her junior teacher, one of the teachers she was interacting with during her summers at Aspire, said to her, "You have to tell yourself yes." So I'm very much invested in this process of taking those anecdotes and those personal convictions and finding more and many ways to tell the story, through numbers, through quotes, through videos, it's just such an interesting exercise in good storytelling.
Yeah.
And I want to do it responsibly, and I want to do it thoroughly. I also want to make it efficient. It's also very time consuming to evaluate a program like this. So it's such important work, because if it's not working, if something isn't working, then you have a responsibility to address it and make it better. And we're always evolving. These programs are changing over time. Our program is changing over time, and we want to find ways to make it responsive and adapt to the needs as we become aware of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is very phenomenal. It's very essential. I kind of feel as if the way that Aspire is contributing to society. So thank you for sharing that. Like, I just feel like it was a huge impact that the community is benefiting from, as far as the young ladies that are attending your program. So keep up the good work, for sure.
I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm here for it.
And I love how you guys are incorporating like anecdotes and looking at that metric, that measuring as storytelling, because I think people oftentimes, like within the public health world, people don't give a lot of weight to anecdotes and personal stories and how things affect people personally. And it's really easy to fall back on numbers without realizing how numbers don't ever really capture a full story and something's full worth. And that's something that I've really loved about the work I've been doing, is we also focus a lot here on like qualitative data, like believing people when they say something, and it means a lot to value someone's words and to assign value to them as well. And I think it's like it can be very empowering, not just for the program, but also the individuals who are like sharing their stories too.
Yeah, good listening is such an important part of that evaluative work.
Very, very, very. So yeah, I think you went over like the metrics part. Like that was very cool.
Yes.
I'm very excited to see like what you guys how your questionnaires and surveys kind of morph over time.
Yes.
And another thing we also talk about a lot is like dissemination. So how you're able to like bring kind of like that success back to your community, whether it be like the Aspire students, teachers, the general HB community. And I'm excited to see that, whatever art form that like kind of comes about in.
Yeah, I think we're just going to get better and better at telling the story. And I think it's going to allow us to do more. And that's really exciting.
Yeah. Our final section, we would love to talk about the future of Aspire. We know that's been on you guys' mind a lot these past few months. Yeah, so I guess that kind of like goes into my next question, because like in an ideal world, programs, any type, like our center wouldn't exist. Aspire wouldn't exist. Like,
I'd love to write myself out of existence,
yeah,
right?
like
Uh,
in many programs like that, they do a lot of work to provide equity. And in
yeah.
an ideal world, like they wouldn't need to exist because that equity would. Do you envision a time in the maybe far or near future where Aspire would no longer need to exist? And like what changes do you think either what changes would you like to see happen that would maybe bring that dream, if that's a dream that you have, like to fruition?
I like this question you're asking about long-term impact and what the future could hold. I mean, there's so many times that I've asked myself, I just think it'd be so great to be able to see into the future, or have a crystal ball and know which way things are headed. And I love this bold vision. I love the idea of writing ourselves out of existence, a future where Aspire wouldn't need to exist. The Center for Health Disparities wouldn't, research on health disparities wouldn't need to exist. And I'm not going to let go of that dream. And the only way I know how to get there is to keep doing this work that we're doing, because it's about awareness and it's about action and it's about, I don't know, it's about the people who are part of it. You know, the long term, that I'll hold that as a lamp or as a vision as I do this day-to-day work. And the day-to-day work, when I think about the girls, is I want Aspire to be a safe place for them, for them to land. I heard that the other day, and I want students to come here and feel free. I want it to be a place where they connect. These are all parts of health and well-being, where they connect to others, where they are invited into really interesting and engaging work, where they are exposed to a big, beautiful world out there and start to see that vision with us, that it's that shared vision, and a place where they're given choices and they get practice with the choices. I feel like in order to get there, to get to a place where Aspire doesn't need to exist, I want many more of them first, so that a girl in Chicago could say she's an Aspire girl, or a girl in Nashville could say she's an Aspire girl. I think it's going to take a lot more of Aspire to get to a world where we don't need one. And then, it's also because, the other goal of Aspire is about teachers and teaching. And right now, this isn't a world where people are rushing towards schools and work as teachers or as school leaders. I want Aspire to be a place where people understand how the education and care of our young is still life's most important work. And we should call people who understand that together and connect them so that they can work on reinventing it to make it viable and sustainable, and doable for people. And it's such an interesting time with the advent of AI and schools that have blended approaches, and there's remote learning, and grading is changing, and acceleration is changing, and we're looking at mastery learning. Standardized tests are changing. There's so much that's happening inside of schools right now as we know more about learning and more about brains, and we know more about health. And I want Aspire to be a place that launches leadership in the educational field, so that the people who teach at Aspire go off and bring really smart solutions to a lot of the tangled difficulties we have in schools today. I want them to adopt that kind of solution finding mindset and feel emboldened and encouraged and supported in that work.
Mm-hmm. You see a lot of your junior teachers, and more like novice and beginner teachers seek a career in teaching after Aspire.
We do. We're seeing teachers teach, run educational organizations, do youth programming. It's phenomenal. Become school leaders. It's really phenomenal.
I love that. It makes
Yeah.
me want to be
Yeah.
a junior teacher at Aspire. Are you guys hiring?
We are. Yeah, we're all, yeah. So that's phenomenal. And we but come on over.
Okay.
Come on over.
Say less. I'll come. I'll teach the kids about public health.
I mean, it would be so great to do a workshop like that on
That would
public
be
health
really
with the
cool.
students. That's such a great idea, Morgan.
Let us know. We would, as a center, would love to be involved. That's something that's at like the core of our work is community engagement.
Yes.
And just making as many connections as possible and bringing people together, closing academic and community partnerships, just all types of things. And something we've talked about a lot is, or something I've personally talked about a lot. I don't know if everyone else agrees with me, but that if I had known public health was an option when I was younger and I had been taught that in middle school and high school, I think it would have expanded my worldview, and also my sense of community too. Knowing that I can do work and care for my community in that sense as well and give back in that way.
Yeah. That's exactly the kind of that's exactly the kind of thinking that we invite into Aspire all the time. So I think it'd be, I think we've just cooked up a new project idea.
Yeah, we're always taking on
And a new
projects every
connection.
year.
There you
Yes.
that's creativity at work right there.
Yes, it
It
is.
takes a conversation and here's what I see, here's what you see, and here's how it can be applied. It's actually a beautiful example of what happens at Aspire all the time, where people get talking and next thing you know, there's a new class or a new field trip or a new connection, and and a life course that is set in direction in pursuit of new kind of knowledge, a new knowledge base in a certain area.
Mhm.
That's fun. That was fun.
That was fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I guess continuing on the topic of I guess more like long-term goals. Are there any other innovative ideas in the books? I know you talked about dreaming big and thinking big. I'm curious as to what those ideas are. When I was chatting with Kevin and Josh about the things that we could talk about, I was chatting with them about summer learning loss and just other things that I knew about how education in marginalized communities, and how oftentimes like colleges, for example, start recruiting at like the high school age, but for a lot of communities that's way too young. Oftentimes the gap is too big. Too many things have happened to an individual in that time for them to be able to make that jump to the college level and succeed in the way that they're expected to. And I know middle school is probably like a really good age to hit that. Would you guys ever think about like going younger than middle school, like prime? Are there like any other big ideas that you guys have?
I think there are, and that's one of the things that's so great about being at Aspire is just calls together a lot of really creative people who are always throwing around ideas, and some of them are small that have to do with kind of tiny tweaks or fun introductions to the day-to-day routines of our summers. came up with the idea the other day of a physical challenge that we could do every day of the summer. And if the students did it every single time, there'd be a celebration at the end. You can kind of just, it's like, so sometimes they're tiny tweaks, and then and then it just invites creative play. Sometimes it's bigger ideas. So you talk about, college readiness, or, what are the different paths into work, and what happens after high school. I mean, a student's life life course is pretty well scripted through the end of high school, but then there are just so many options out there. And I think one of the things that we're looking at or dreaming about are just connections for our organization being more established at the 20-year mark with other organizations in town that have expertise that we can tap and bring to our students and our teachers. I like that notion of formalizing some of those partnerships so that our students can find more support in other places. And I like thinking about, I like the notion that our new era of evaluation, will bring us a lot of learning, and I want to respond to that learning. And I think a little bit about, how and when and whether there are ways we can make the learning that happens at Aspire even more personalized, and give the students more feedback and more tools to talk about what it is that has changed inside of them, track what they have done, discover and identify and articulate what their interests are, because we're doing more to help them connect the dots. I'm always thinking about the funding side of things. I'm also thinking about leadership all the time. I think that's a really big part of any healthy organization. It's also about finding ways to, it's like Aspire needs to turn into a manual. I would like to make it possible for new people to assume the work at Aspire, understand how it works. I want to explain how it works. When I want to put those directions down, I want to make them shareable so that more people can do this kind of work. And I think that's something that we've turned our attention to a little bit too. It's just, I don't know, do people have manuals for all the roles that did you get a manual for the roles that you each play? How did you learn how to do what you're doing? Are you thinking about creating a manual so that someday when someone comes in after you, they'll know how you approached it and what mattered and what decisions you considered and why you decided what you decided?
I mean, yeah, I feel like that's so integral to just research in general. That's like a methods section, is to detail everything down to the minute. So so anyone anywhere could ever repeat that at any given time.
Yes.
It's like how when you write a paper and you make that methods section, you think like, how can anybody else repeat this and get the same results every time?
Yeah. So I think it's just such an interesting experiment to give people enough of a blueprint that they can get started and they're not beginning back at, square one.
Right.
But leave room in that blueprint for them to bring their creative energies and to bring their observations and their inventiveness to the work. So I'm really interested in that question right now. And I want to know how other organizations have approached that. And I want to make the work that happens at Aspire shareable.
I like that. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
But doable.
But very doable.
We're on our way.
Yeah. With the right team and the right expertise to kind of decide, like, what are things that are very unique to Aspire and to Cleveland girls, and what are things that can be translated in other neighborhoods, other demographics, other areas. It's gonna take time, but I think it's gonna lead to some like very very fruitful
Oh
outcome.
yeah, for sure.
For
I
sure.
feel like in a way, this is how innovators are currently like created. I feel like this is where trailblazers kind of come from, as far as like, like the work and just the thought of creating a blueprint, just thinking of all of the amazing young girls that's going to just follow in those footsteps once that blueprint is accessible. So it was great just to have the conversation, because I just feel like so many people are going to be able to benefit from what Aspire is currently doing. Is like I said before, it is very essential within the community, and other community partners, to just be able to experience what Aspire is providing. So once again, like, continue to keep up the good work. Like, I learned a lot today. I'm really like, wow, in a way, because I've learned a lot. It's so many amazing layers.
Such an honor to be included among these great organizations that you're connecting to and learning from. And when I say I want Aspire to be shareable, look at you two giving us the opportunity to share. And I'm super grateful.
Yeah.
I'm energized, and I like the reflection and the thinking and the connecting. It's really important work that you're doing.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
You as well.
You as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll take my hat off to you. Definitely do.
And then I guess
So much.
our very, very, very last question, it can be a quick one, is as we speak about the future, you guys are in the process of finding a new director.
Yes.
So how's that been going? Like what were some things that you were really looking for when starting the search?
Okay. Hiring is such a hard work, and searches are just such reflective times for an organization, because it always starts with sort of a round of stakeholder interviews. And what do you know? What's essential at Aspire? What is essential about leadership for Aspire? And what does this organization need in its next season? And that round of conversations has just informed a great process that we are part of the way through. So the stakeholder conversations have happened, rounds of screening interviews have happened, and we've connected some candidates with our community so far, and we're going to continue to do that over the next month or so. And I am so excited about the people that have been attracted to this opportunity. And I mean, I will say, aside from my partner, and my two children, the absolute most beautiful people I have met on this planet have been through Aspire, and that hasn't ended. I'm encouraged and excited, and it's been such an exercise in finding hope and having and holding hope for the future of Aspire, the future of the city. So stay tuned. I'm excited to tell you more about that.
Yeah.
It's been good. It's been good, hard work, and really reflective time for the organization. And
that's good.
Yeah. It's a role where you have to wear a lot of different hats. So
yeah, I remember when I was at HB, the Aspire room, I know like it was for Aspire, obviously, but it was also like a good community space just for the Black girls who attended HB, like, and the person who directed Aspire was also someone that was important to us as well.
Yeah.
So I was an individual who was not an Aspire, and there's African-American girls, Black girls at HB who did Aspire, didn't do Aspire, but regardless, the person who runs that program also was a stakeholder to our community as well when I was there. So
yeah.
They're very important person.
Yeah, they are Aspire and HB are very much just all entirely a part of each other. And I love the role that it has played, because representation matters and connection matters, and feeling seen, feeling heard matters. And I think the fact that they exist side by side like this or inside of each other allows us to do that work in better ways than we could have without each other.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you felt it
I did.
when you were here.
I saw those butterflies everywhere.
Yeah. And here you are in this new season of your life, new stage of your life, that all of these other stages that you had before brought you right up into.
Yep, I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
No, this is great.
Yes, it was.
I really love learning more about Aspire and the really awesome work that they do. And I'm really excited to see what this summer brings you guys, new director.
Yes.
And yeah, this was great. And hopefully like we can connect after this. We'll have our part two, which
Yes,
I'm so
yes.
stay tuned, everybody. Part
Yes.
Stay
two.
tuned, everyone. Part 2 is coming.
And yeah, and I hope that maybe our center and some of the individuals that we work with, we can like partner up sometime in the future in any type of work or capacity. That would be great. We do a lot of community connecting.
Yes.
Every month we have a group called a community-based research network. We have community organizations, and then we have academic researchers, and we all have like meetings every month. And it's something we take very seriously.
Yes.
And is at a core part of our identity, which is why we care so much about giving a voice to and a spotlight to the organizations that make Cleveland. So
Yeah. It means a lot to Cleveland to have an organization like yours inviting sparks, like connections, and inviting people, just awareness of what's going on, and inviting people into action, really efficient action to make it better. You can't really ask for more than that.
Koyen, thank you so much for joining us. It was nice.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to meet you, Kevin, and to reconnect with you, Morgan. It was really such a delight.
Yes, and we're very, very, very excited to do part 2 coming soon this summer, featuring some students and teachers from the program.
So am I. That's going to be such a great experience for us.